I am the real daughter of a wealthy family. I lived in the slums for 17 years and was finally found by my biological parents. In the magnificent and splendid hall, my biological mother looked at me with guilt. Judy, Mom has already regarded Heidi as her own daughter, so I've decided to keep her here too. You don't mind, do you? I smiled slightly and said, of course not, actually. I'm also very reluctant to part with my adoptive parents. Can they stay here, just like that? My adoptive parents, who are also Heidi's biological parents, settled down in this luxurious mansion. The two unemployed people who had never worked a day in their lives moved from the slums to the top wealthy area where every inch of land is precious. They were almost overjoyed. They even thought it was thanks to their biological daughter. Our Heidi is born with good fortune. Mom and Dad are really benefiting from you, of course. Just look at who gave birth to her. When the two of them were feeling complacent, they didn't notice Heidi's embarrassed and pale face at all. Now she is just an imposter daughter. Her position in the family was already awkward, and now there are two stupid parents nagging by her side all day long. I guess there are already 10,000 alpacas running wild in her heart. Mom, Dad, you can start eating first. I obediently took 2 bowls of bird's nest and handed them to the two of them. David and Ella's eyes fell on me, and they immediately became much colder, but because of my current status, they didn't show it too obviously and reluctantly said, thank you, to me. They clearly knew that it was my suggestion to let them stay, yet they still treated me coldly and never showed me a bit of kindness. Well, it's understandable. After all, for more than a decade, I had been a servant in their home and lived a life worse than a dog. Just imagine, a dog in the family suddenly turned into a young lady of a wealthy family. And it also threatened the position of their biological daughter from time to time. How could they give me a good look? Noticing the gradually changing expressions of my biological parents, Heidi suppressed her emotions and said in a cold voice, don't talk while eating or speaking during sleep. This is the rule of our family. Please stop talking and start eating. David and Ella looked at each other. It took them a long time to realize what she meant, and they quickly closed their mouths and lowered their heads to drink the bird's nest. The slurping sound made everyone at the dining table frown. My wealthy father, Lucas, couldn't stand it first. He put down the cutlery in his hand and said indifferently, I'm full, enjoy your meal. Then came my noble and elegant biological mother, me too, enjoy your meal. David and Ella didn't even bother to wipe their mouths and hurriedly responded, okay. Heidi's face turned even paler, and her hands holding the cutlery gradually turned white, her eyelids drooped, and the emotions in her eyes were unclear. Leo, my biological brother, was looking at me at this moment. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, and his handsome and indifferent face was filled with dissatisfaction and resentment. Needless to say, he must be complaining about why I let these two people stay in his home, making the whole family unable to have a peaceful meal. I didn't care about his dissatisfaction at all and continued eating as if no one else was around. If I didn't let them stay, how could I slap Heidi in the face? How could I make her lose all face? How could I let my biological parents know how I had lived these years? In the evening, my mother, Monica, knocked on my door. She is in her early 40s this year, thanks to her good maintenance. She looks about 30 years old. At first, my mother just asked me how I was getting along in this home and whether I was used to it. Soon, she got to the point. Judy, your adoptive parents have been living in our home for a month. Mom thinks that their living habits are ultimately different from ours. What do you think? Should we let them go back to their hometown for a while? David and Ella have never done a proper job in their entire lives. They are not only lazy gluttons but also vain. I had already guessed that within a month. The Lincoln family would not be able to stand those two lazybones. However, being able to have some connection with the Lincoln family is a stroke of great luck for their family. How could they let go of such a big opportunity so easily? If they were to be driven away, the other party would surely use their daughter Heidi as a threat. Then it would depend on whether my biological parents were willing to give up. I nodded obediently and pretended to be good. Although I'm also very reluctant to part with them, it really isn't a solution for them to keep living here. Then let them go back. The next day, when David and Ella heard the butler, Lee, euphemistically suggest that they go back to their hometown, their faces changed drastically. They had just enjoyed the luxurious and comfortable life in this wealthy family for a month, and now they were about to be deprived of it. How could they accept it? No way. Our biological daughter is still here. The two of us aren't going anywhere. That's right. Poor Heidi has never received the love of her biological parents since she was born. Now that our family of 3 is finally reunited, how can you let us go? They said it so grandly, but in fact, everyone knew the real reason why they didn't want to leave. The butler, Lee, curled his lips in disdain. Even the several servants beside him didn't hide the mocking expressions on their faces. Everyone glanced at Heidi subtly. I wonder what the former pampered young lady, who had received all the love, was feeling at this moment. After all, everyone in the Lincoln family already knew her identity clearly. You go back to your hometown first. I'll visit you when I have time. Heidi was wearing a Chanel haute couture dress, looking elegant and composed. She probably didn't want to lose face in front of the servants. The two people opposite were stunned. Perhaps they didn't expect their biological daughter to say such a thing. Ella pinched herself hard. Her eyes turned red, and her voice choked up. Heidi, Mom can't bear to part with you. Mom doesn't want to leave. No matter what, our family should stay together. Yes, unless you come with us, David said firmly. He wasn't stupid. He knew that the Lincoln family couple couldn't bear to part with Heidi, so he wanted to seize this weakness to maintain his glory and wealth. Heidi pursed her lips tightly, her eyes burning. She was probably going crazy because of her stupid parents. They had never raised her for a single day in the past 17 years. As soon as they appeared, they clung to her as a life-saving straw. I don't believe that Heidi has much real affection for her biological parents. At this moment, she still didn't realize that the look of disgust for her biological parents in her eyes was already very obvious. When my mother, Monica, heard that David and Ella wanted to take Heidi back to their hometown, she immediately hesitated. After all, it was a mother-daughter relationship of 17 years, and Heidi was crying pitifully in front of her. Mom, I don't want to leave you and Dad. In my heart, only you, Dad, and my brother are my family. Please let me stay in this home, okay? This sincere confession made my mother's eyes turn red, and she hugged the other person tightly. Don't worry. Mom won't let you go. Heidi will always be Mom's good daughter. I closed the door and didn't interrupt this tender moment between the mother and daughter. After a while, Heidi came out of the room. When she saw me in the corridor, a trace of hesitation appeared in her eyes and brows, and her tone was wary. Mom has already fallen asleep. She doesn't want to be disturbed now. I smiled. Is that so? I don't have anything important. She let out a sigh of relief. Then I continued, actually, I think it's not proper for my adoptive parents to live here without doing anything. Why don't we let them do something? My adoptive father can drive, and my adoptive mother can do the cleaning. At least it will prevent people from gossiping, right? Heidi's expression froze, and she stared at me in surprise. I think she has already understood what I meant. If her biological parents work as a driver and a nanny in her own home, the person who will be gossiped about definitely won't be me. Why are you doing this? I pretended not to understand. What? Why did you suggest that they stay here? Heidi's tone was mixed with anger, and it was obvious that she had been unhappy about this for a long time. Of course I'm reluctant. You were crying your heart out in front of Mom just now. Weren't you also reluctant to part with your parents? My words made her expression much colder, and she became haughty. It was completely different from the pitiful look when she was crying just now. Mom will never let me leave this home. Her tone was very determined and confident, with a hint of provocation. I smiled at her. Is that so? That's great. When Ella heard my suggestion that she should do some work in this home, she immediately jumped up. What? Let me be a nanny here? Are you crazy, Mom? I'm just making a suggestion. After all, it doesn't make sense for you and Dad to live here for free every day. What do you mean by living here for free, Judy? Have you forgotten who raised you? Moreover, my biological daughter is still in this home. There's no way I'll be a nanny. Ella cursed and ranted nonstop. I wasn't angry either. I didn't expect them to agree in the first place. I just wanted to provoke Heidi that day. If they had really agreed, I wouldn't have known what to do next. Since you don't want to, forget it. Just pretend I didn't say anything. When Ella heard me say this, the anger on her face gradually subsided. Soon. It was my 17th birthday. It was also Heidi's birthday. The Lincoln family decided to hold a large party in the villa to announce my identity to everyone and officially adopt Heidi as their adopted daughter. By the way, David and Ella were overjoyed. Their biological daughter being adopted by the chairman of the Lincoln family's consortium meant that they had one foot in the door of wealth. How could they not be happy? On the day of the party, luxury cars gathered in the villa's parking lot. It was said that all the prominent people in City A had come. In the dressing room, Heidi and I were trying on dresses at the same time. I put on the first luxury dress in my life and wore gorgeous jewelry for the first time. Looking at the somewhat indifferent and beautiful girl in the mirror, I couldn't recognize myself for a moment. when my mother was helping me adjust my clothes. She accidentally saw the 2 long scars on my wrist and asked in surprise, "Judy, what happened here?" Heidi and Ella beside her heard this and looked over. Ella's face changed, and she looked very nervous. I curled the corners of my lips. It seemed that she hadn't forgotten. One afternoon when I was about 10 years old, David and Ella came back from playing mahjong. Their faces were very dark, and they must have lost a lot. Knowing their temperaments well, I didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I silently lit the fire and cooked in the kitchen, praying that they wouldn't suddenly explode. However, my prayers were in vain, because the stir-fried greens were a bit salty. Ella slapped me to the ground with one slap. "You little bitch, do you want to choke me to death? You deliberately made it so salty." I got up tremblingly and shook my head frantically. "No, Mom, I didn't mean to. It was an accident." The other party didn't listen to my explanation at all and slapped me again. "Don't call me Mom, I'm not your mom. I don't know which slut gave birth to you. Look at your coquettish look." A long time ago, I didn't know why Mom would scold herself every time she beat and scolded me. Later, I realized that she wasn't scolding herself at all. Ella and David had long known that I wasn't their biological daughter. 2 slaps were not enough to quell her anger. Ella suddenly grabbed my hair and dragged me out from under the table. The excruciating pain spread from my scalp. I was so scared that I cried and begged her, "Don't hit me, Mom, please, don't hit me. You just know how to cry all day long. Are you mourning? That's how you made me lose all my money with your crying." David was like a fierce demon. He suddenly stood up and kicked me several times in the stomach. After kicking me, he still wasn't satisfied. He casually picked up a bamboo chair next to him and threw it at me. One leg of the bamboo chair was broken, revealing a sharp end. I was afraid that it would hit my face, so I instinctively reached out to block it. The tip of the bamboo scratched my arm, and the blood gushed out. I got it from a fall when I was a child. I explained to my mother calmly. Ella let out a sigh of relief and didn't feel any sense of guilt at all. I even saw her curl the corners of her lips and show a look of disdain. Then she eagerly circled around her precious daughter, looking at her from left to right. Heidi's dress was white, with hollow lace edging and a waist-cinching design. She had a slender figure, and her skin was snow white all over her body, without any scars. She was obviously raised with great care. She was like a little princess in a greenhouse. My mother looked at me with some sadness, her expression sorrowful. "Judy, you've suffered a lot." "Yes, I really have suffered." If I told her that I had a miserable childhood, that I was almost beaten up by Ella and David every day, and that I had been beaten more times than Heidi had eaten meals. Could she cut off her mother-daughter relationship with Heidi and send her back to the countryside? Probably not. Mom might explain for her. "Heidi is innocent. She doesn't know anything. Can you forgive her?" After all, she had been Heidi's mother for 17 years. And she had only been my mother for just 1 month. I already felt bored before the banquet even started. Of course, the main reason was that I didn't know anyone. Heidi, on the other hand, seemed much more at ease. She was having a great conversation with a group of little sisters on the second floor, and Leo was also there. It was obvious that they had many mutual friends. There were many exquisitely wrapped birthday gifts placed on the tea table beside them. I don't know who told a joke, and everyone burst into laughter. Heidi, who was sitting firmly in the center position, covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes and brows full of joy. She looked at me triumphantly. That expression clearly told me that even though she was an imposter daughter, she was much more glorious than I, the real daughter. "By the way, Leo, where's your gift? You don't need to remind me. Don't forget, he's a sister con." Amidst the laughter and chatter, Leo took out an exquisite wristwatch from the box. Someone exclaimed with wide eyes, "This is the latest Bulgari model. Young Master Lu is really generous. No wonder he's called a sister con. I wish I could be reincarnated as your sister in my next life. Get out of here." Heidi's face was filled with happiness and glory. She took the gift and said coquettishly, "Thank you, brother. You're the best, brother." Leo doted on her and stroked her forehead. "Silly girl. What a beautiful picture of a deep brother-sister relationship." A petite girl in a black dress walked up to me and sized me up. "You're Aunt Monica's biological daughter." I didn't deny it and immediately replied, "Yeah," she exclaimed, "you really do look a lot like Aunt Monica." I do have some resemblance to my mother. Not knowing how to respond, I could only nod politely. "Thank you. By the way, you're much prettier than Heidi." The girl, acting very familiar, stood beside me and said generously. I took it as a compliment and replied again, "Is that so?" "Thank you." Is Leo out of his mind? he leaves his own biological sister here alone while spoiling his fake sister like a treasure. The girl clicked her tongue and shook her head, with disdain clearly showing on her face. I looked at her curiously. Could it be that she has some feud with Leo and his sister? What, am I not telling the truth? I thought for a moment. It's his own freedom. He can be nice to whoever he wants and doesn't need to care about others. The girl's expression became somewhat inquisitive, and her tone was skeptical. Aren't you angry? Don't you think it's unfair to you? I picked up the juice beside me and took a sip. Of course I'm angry. I wish I could travel back in time 20 years and have Leo be the one who was switched at birth. Let him grow up in a poor and down-and-out family, with parents who have a bad temper, drink and play mahjong every day, and beat him up on average once every 2 days. Force him to drop out of school in junior high, and it would be even better if his mother molested him from time to time. I suddenly stopped speaking here. I fell silent and didn't say anything more. The girl stared at me, her mouth half open, as if she was shocked by my words. After a long while, she slowly said, I'm sorry. Strange. Since the day I returned to the Lincoln family, no one has ever said sorry to me. The first person to say sorry to me turned out to be a strange girl. I put away my emotions and smiled at her. Why are you apologizing? It has nothing to do with you. It was 6:30. In a while, the banquet would officially start. I said goodbye to the girl, went downstairs to the first floor, and looked around for David. After searching for a long time, I finally found him in the gym in the basement. Dad, what are you doing here? I asked him in surprise. David looked surprised and a bit uncomfortable when he saw me. Your mother is afraid that I'll drink, so she asked me to stay here and not go out. Ella really thought it through. David is addicted to alcohol and goes on a rampage when he's drunk. On such an important day, of course she doesn't want anything to go wrong with her alcoholic husband. How could Mom do this? Even if she doesn't let you out, she should at least bring you something to eat. I pretended to be dissatisfied. The other person's eyes lit up, and he showed a wretched and flattering smile. Judy, you're still the best to Dad. Why don't you go and get something for me? I haven't had dinner yet. Sure, what do you want to eat? Anything is fine, as long as there's meat. By the way, can you get a glass of wine for Dad? Just one glass. I put on an embarrassed look. Won't Mom scold me? The other person swore, but the greed in his tone couldn't be hidden. No, Dad will just have one glass. Just one glass. I went to the wine cellar, found 3 bottles of aged fine wine. Then went to the kitchen and filled 2 large plates with food. I carried the tray to the basement. David's eyes were fixed on the food, and he soon began to feast. When I went back to the second floor, I bumped into Leo in the corridor. It seemed that he had finished showing his deep brother-sister affection with Heidi. I didn't feel like being polite to him and was about to turn around and leave. Judy Lincoln, the other person, called out to me. My parents have already changed my surname, but he still calls me Judy Lincoln. I smiled indifferently and looked back at him. What is it? From today on, Heidi is our biological sister. I hope you can be nice to her. Is he crazy? I don't object to you being nice to her, but what I do to her is none of your business. Leo frowned tightly, looking very unhappy. Do you have to be like this? What have I done? Your life's accident has nothing to do with Heidi at all. Why are you deliberately targeting her? What's in it for you? I stared at him, and my originally calm heart suddenly became irritable. Are you out of your mind? I really hope that in the future, your own son will also be switched at birth, and it would be best if he's taken to a place like Nepal where people can't get enough to eat and can't go to school. Then have him switched back to you 17 years later and see if you can still talk so arrogantly. Leo paused, and there was obvious anger in his eyes. What do you mean by that? Just what I said. Say it again if you have the guts. Go to hell. Scram. Leo pursed his lips, trembling with anger. This young master has probably never been cursed at like this in his life. It's just the right time for him to experience it. Brother, what are you two talking about? Heidi walked over in surprise and glanced in my direction. I'm saying that every cause has its effect, and his retribution is me. I gave a cold laugh and then left. Although I won the argument, I was still extremely angry. I had to go to the restroom to calm down. A girl was touching up her makeup in front of the mirror. She seemed to be one of Heidi's close friends. When she saw me come in, she looked disdainful and rolled her eyes at me. It seemed that she knew my identity and wanted to show solidarity with her little sister. I didn't have the time to pay attention to her. I originally planned to wash my face, but I had makeup on, so I had to give up. After the girl finished her makeup, before leaving the restroom, she leisurely gave me another supercilious look. Is there something wrong with your eyes? I asked casually. What? She stopped in her tracks. Nothing. I thought you were born cross-eyed. She had an expression as if she had eaten something unpleasant and couldn't say a word. After she left, I saw a ruby diamond ring on the counter in the restroom. It was sparkling, translucent, and dazzling, and it looked very expensive. It should have been left behind by that girl just now. After all, she's a guest of the Lincoln family, so I must return it. But I walked out of the restroom with the ring and shuttled in the lobby on the first floor. There were more and more guests. The clothes were fragrant, and the glasses were clinking. I quickly spotted Ella. She was dressed like a colorful butterfly, recommending herself in front of this noble lady one moment and flattering that madam the next. She made a complete fool of herself but still felt good about it. I heard her excitedly run up to Heidi to take credit. Heidi, that lady in the yellow dress is the wife of the finance director. Her son is the same age as you. Mom will introduce you to each other later. Heidi's face tightened. She probably didn't expect her biological mother to be so stupid as to try to play matchmaker for her in such an occasion. She gritted her teeth and scolded, "Enough, can you stop meddling in my affairs?" Ella looked embarrassed and could only slink away from her. I followed her with my eyes for a long time until she went into the restroom, and then I followed her in. When Ella came out of the cubicle, I was standing by the sink, carefully examining the ruby ring. "What are you doing here?" The other person snapped at me in a bad mood. This has been her standard tone of speaking to me since I was a child. She seemed to have forgotten my current identity. She's really as stupid as a pig. But I didn't argue with her. "Mom, I don't know whose ring was left here." As soon as she heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. "Is it the one in your hand?" "Yeah, it looks quite expensive. I have to go out and ask who lost it. Let me take a look." She was quick and snatched it away. The phrase, "greedy at the sight of wealth," was fully demonstrated in her. "You don't have to worry about it, I'll ask." I was a bit hesitant. "Mom, this ring looks quite valuable. You'd better give it back to me, in case." I said, "I'll ask." "You little." She suddenly stopped and changed her words. "What, don't you trust your mom?" I slowly retracted my hand and smiled. "Of course not." "Then that's settled." Ella walked out of the room with a happy expression. I knew very well that the fish had finally taken the bait. Not long after the banquet started, my mother, Monica, took my hand and began to greet all the uncles, aunts, and other guests. Almost all the celebrities and big shots in City A were here today. I tried my best to appear calm, composed, elegant, and generous. She's indeed the biological daughter. Her facial features are just like Monica's. She's a little beauty. Indeed, she's also tall. "Oh, Monica, why don't we become in-laws? Your son is already in college. There's quite an age gap between him and Judy. Monica, you should consider our family's Mandy. He's in his senior year of high school this year and the same age as Judy. Our son is only a freshman in college. He's only 2 years older than Judy." Several women adorned with jewelry joked with my mother and praised me a lot. They completely ignored Heidi beside me. People are realistic, especially in such a vain and materialistic social circle. Heidi's little face, which had been smiling at first, gradually began to show signs of cracking. The expression of not knowing whether to smile or not was on her face, making her look very embarrassed. She didn't follow us anymore and walked behind with her head down and her eyes averted. After a while, Heidi walked up leisurely again. In just 5 minutes, her aura had completely changed. There was a hint of secret joy and pleasure in her eyes and brows. There was also a person standing beside her. The girl who had rolled her eyes at me in the restroom earlier. The girl covered her mouth and whispered something in Heidi's ear. "Mia, are you sure you're not mistaken?" "How could I be? It was just me and her in the restroom at that time. There was no one else." Heidi deliberately glanced in my direction and said with certainty, "It's impossible. Judy isn't that kind of person. Don't be deceived by her appearance. Anyway, that ring was left to me by my grandmother. I must get it back today." The two of them whispering finally caught my mother's attention. "Heidi, what are you two talking about?" The other person looked at me hesitantly, as if not knowing how to start. "Mom, Mia said that her diamond ring is missing." After hearing this, my mother's expression paused, and she looked at the girl. "Is that so? When did it happen, Mrs. Lincoln?" "It was just a short while ago." "Where did you lose it?" "In the restroom on the first floor." After the girl named Mia finished speaking, she deliberately glanced at me. It was very thought-provoking. My mother noticed this and her expression became a bit strange. "Was there anyone in the restroom at that time?" The other person didn't answer immediately but looked at Heidi. Heidi then looked at me, hesitating to speak. "What exactly is going on? Heidi, you tell me." After a brief silence, "Mom, Mia said that it was just her and Judy in the restroom at that time. My mother, Monica, finally understood what was going on. Her eyes immediately became sharp, and her tone became much more serious. Miss Mia, do you mean you suspect that our Judy took your diamond ring? Mia pursed her lips. Mrs. Lincoln, I didn't say that, but there were indeed only me and her in the restroom at that time. Do you have any other evidence besides this? The other person was silent for a moment. No, my mother said in a solemn voice. Miss Mia, even though you're young, you should understand a truth. You can eat anything. But you can't say anything casually. If you don't have conclusive evidence, it's better to be cautious with your words. Mrs. Lincoln, I was out of the restroom for at most 10 minutes. When I went back, I couldn't find my ring. Although there's no evidence, Judy is the most suspect. This ruby ring was left to me by my late grandmother. I must find it today. I hope you can handle this fairly, Mia said without giving in. The people around began to whisper. More and more guests gathered around and started talking. Heidi put on an expression of being in a dilemma, but in fact, the complacency on her brows could hardly be hidden. I also saw Ella. At first, she was very nervous. But after hearing Mia point the finger at me and say in front of everyone that Judy is the most suspect, she relaxed. Instead, a look of schadenfreude appeared on her face. I have to say, these two mother and daughter are really alike. Judy, do you have anything you want to say to Mom? My mother, Monica, looked at me seriously. Will Mom believe me no matter what I say? Of course, you're Mom's biological daughter. No matter what you say, Mom will unconditionally believe you. A warm feeling welled up in my heart. I didn't take it. When my mother heard me say this, she let out a sigh of relief. Mia gave a cold snort. You say you didn't take it, and that's it. Where's the evidence? I don't have any evidence. Let's just call the police. From now on, the scene will be sealed off, and no one is allowed to leave until the police arrive. Is that okay? Call the police then. Ella's face froze on the opposite side, and she instinctively reached into her handbag. Heidi let out a sigh and put on an understanding look. Mia, I believe that Judy is definitely not that kind of person. How about we don't call the police for now? There are so many guests here today. Maybe some guest accidentally took it by mistake. Let's ask around first. If we can't find it, we can think of other ways. Okay, Mia looked at me provocatively and didn't give a definite answer. May I ask, Miss Mia, how much is your diamond ring worth approximately? It was left to me by my grandmother. It's not worth much, just over 5 million. I clicked my tongue twice. 5 million. If the charge of theft is established, I'll have to serve at least 10 years in prison. I can't take this blame. Let's just wait for the police here. As soon as I said this, Ella's face turned pale. She was obviously a bit unsteady on her feet. She clutched her handbag tightly and tried to back out of the crowd. I whispered a few words to my mother. She quickly understood and gave a look to her secretary not far away. The door of the living room was sealed off. The back door was the same. Dear friends and relatives, I'm really sorry. There's been a small situation at tonight's banquet. It concerns my daughter Judy's reputation, and we've decided to call the police. I believe the police will arrive soon. It may delay you for a short while. I hope you can understand. After the banquet, I'll ask the staff to send a gift to each of you. Thank you. There was a commotion in the hall, but it quickly quieted down. Mia stood there calmly, seemingly convinced that I had stolen her diamond ring. Heidi had an expression of helplessness and being in a dilemma. Only Ella, it was obvious that she was really anxious. She wanted to go out but couldn't. The handbag in her hand became a hot potato. She couldn't throw it away, nor could she keep it. She was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, sweating profusely. The sound of a police siren came from a distance. Ella looked flustered and almost fell to the ground. Her whole body started to tremble. Finally, she stumbled over to Heidi and said in a trembling voice, Heidi, can you ask your friend not to call the police? Heidi's face tightened. What are you talking about? Ella must have been really scared. At this moment, she didn't care about losing face. Well, your friend's ring was picked up by me. It's in my handbag. Heidi slowly turned her head and stared at her biological mother, unable to even speak. Mia also heard it and looked stunned. Heidi, who is this? There was an eerie silence. Ella forced a smile. Hello, classmate, I'm Heidi's mother, her biological mother. Mia was stunned. In full view of everyone, Ella took out the ruby diamond ring and handed it to the other person. Here's your ring. When the police come later, tell them you found the ring and ask them to go back. The onlookers were stunned by her actions and stood there in shock. Soon, there was an uproar, all kinds of voices of disdain, ridicule, sarcasm, and contempt came pouring in. Heidi's face turned crimson, almost as if it was about to bleed. She bit her lips tightly and stared at the rural woman in front of her, her eyes bursting with a glint of hatred and indignation. Ella didn't dare to look at her at all. She lowered her head tremblingly and didn't even dare to breathe. Mia took the diamond ring and said sarcastically, "So the ring was with you, why didn't you take it out earlier? Auntie was just joking with you." "Just a joke." Mia looked speechless. Even if she thought about it with her toes, she could guess what the other person's intentions were before. She glanced at Heidi, snorted in disgust, and left with a flick of her sleeve. If there was a ranking of the most humiliating moments in life, I'm afraid this moment today would top Heidi's list. It's a pity there's no crack in the ground, otherwise she would have disappeared long ago. My mother looked at the mother and daughter opposite, and a coldness gradually appeared on her face. Suddenly, a strange shouting sound came from outside the hall, then there was a loud crash, which startled the guests. Everyone turned around and looked. A drunken man walked in at the door, holding a wine bottle, staggering and talking nonsense. "If a tiger doesn't show its power, you think I'm a sick cat? Let me tell you, I'm about to become the richest man in Jing City. Do you know who my daughter is? She's the adopted daughter of the chairman of the Lincoln Group. You poor wretches dare to look down on me. I'll make you pay for it later." This drunken man was David. Just when I was regretting why he didn't perform his drama today, this guy threw the wine bottle hard on the ground and then started taking off his clothes, shirt, pants, shoes, until he was completely naked. The guests were in an uproar and fled in all directions. The ladies covered their eyes and screamed as they stepped back. Ella ran up in a fit of rage and hammered David hard. "You damn thing, who let you drink? Don't you see what day it is today? You've embarrassed our daughter." Heidi stood there stunned. She even forgot to cover her eyes. It seemed she was shocked by this famous scene. My mother, Monica, was so angry that she scolded, "Where are the security guards? Get this lunatic out of here now." David did look like a lunatic at the moment. Perhaps he was too happy. He pushed Ella away and even started dancing in the hall. Fortunately, the security guards came up quickly and pinned him to the ground. Before long, the police also arrived. The banquet was in chaos. Heidi looked at me across the crowd. At this moment, the hatred in her eyes was undisguised. Could it be that she felt embarrassed and humiliated by such parents? This was my daily life for the first 17 years. She had never experienced their beatings, never had to get up at 6 in the morning to cook and work in the fields when she was 4 or 5 years old, and never had to be forced to drop out of school in the 2nd grade of primary school. She grew up in this palace-like house, served by a large group of servants. Her daily leisure time was spent playing the piano, painting, and playing chess. It's strange, when the truth was revealed, she actually started to hate me. She had occupied my place for so many years. Didn't she feel any guilt towards me at all? I met Heidi's fierce and hateful gaze. Obviously, she didn't. At this moment, she only hated why I had to appear here, why I had to break her fairy tale of being a beloved daughter of heaven, and why I hadn't died in that poor and humble town. I smiled at her. It's time for everything to return to its rightful place. The day after the banquet, my mother gave the order to immediately expel David and Ella from the Lincoln family. After a while, the butler, Lee, unceremoniously threw their luggage on the ground. "Please leave quickly, you too. If you're any later, don't blame me for calling the security guards." David and Ella knew very well that they had caused a huge mess last night, but they still didn't repent and shouted loudly, "There's no way you can drive us away. Where our biological daughter is, that's where we'll be." They were like two scoundrels, sitting at the door of the living room and refusing to go anywhere. No matter how much the butler, Lee, talked, they remained unmoved. In the end, he could only go and ask my mother for instructions. This time, my mother didn't hesitate. Then let their biological daughter leave with them. The butler, Lee, conveyed the message to the couple, David and Ella. At the same time, he was also carrying a bag. Inside were Heidi's clothes, just a few pieces. Heidi was crying bitterly and heartbroken. "No, I don't want to leave. This is my home. I'm not going anywhere, miss." Realizing that he had said the wrong thing, the butler, Lee, quickly changed his words. "Heidi, this is an order from the madam. No one can disobey it. You'd better leave quickly." "No, I won't leave. I want to see my mother." "The madam won't see you. I don't believe it. I'm going to call my dad." Heidi dried her tears, took out her phone, and started dialing. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. "Mr. Lincoln is currently in the United States negotiating a cooperation." Heidi, you're no longer the biological daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln. Why do you have to humiliate yourself? The butler, Lee, said seriously. But I was raised by them with their own hands. Just because I'm not their biological child, do they have to discard me like this? Heidi shouted with a sobbing voice. You've already enjoyed enough. Look at the behavior of your biological parents. Miss Judy is the one who's the most pitiful. The butler, Lee, retorted unceremoniously. Perhaps the commotion downstairs was too loud. Leo walked downstairs with a surprised expression. What are you doing, Heidi? Like someone grabbing a life-saving straw, quickly pounced towards him. Brother. Mom wants to drive me away. Go and persuade her quickly. Leo looked stunned. What did you say? Mom wants to drive you away? Why, she said she wants me to go back with my biological parents. But I don't want to go back, and I don't want to leave you guys. Leo immediately understood and then looked up. Butler Lee. Where is my mom now, Master Leo? This is an order just given by the madam. It's better that you don't interfere. I can refrain from interfering in other things. But I absolutely won't agree to her driving Heidi away. Since when do I need your approval to do things? A calm voice sounded. I saw my mother, Monica, slowly walking downstairs. Mom, are you confused? Why do you want to drive Heidi away? Leo frowned. Presumptuous. After a cold rebuke. Butler Lee. Do I need to teach you how to do your job? Where are the security guards? The butler, Lee, bowed his head respectfully. Madam, I'll deal with it right away. Heidi looked at her mother's cold and distant appearance, kept wiping her tears, but couldn't say a word. The thing I hate the most in my life is being threatened. Since that's the case, I'm giving your biological daughter back to you. From today on, there's no need for us to meet again. This is probably the aura of someone in a high position, decisive, aloof, and never hesitant. I really want to clap for my biological mother. David and Ella were completely stunned. This plot was completely beyond their expectations. The two of them obviously hadn't thought about how to act next. Before they could react, the security captain of the Lincoln family rushed in with a group of people. Hey, what are you doing? Let go of me quickly. Even if you beat me to death today, I won't leave. Let go of me, you hear me? After a while, the noisy voices could no longer be heard. Even Heidi was escorted out by them. Leo stepped forward domineeringly, trying to protect her. Unexpectedly, the security uncle didn't show him any face. When he pushed him away, he didn't control his strength well, and Leo almost fell flat on his face. I curved the corners of my lips. The living room returned to silence. Leo was furious. When he looked up, he saw me walking downstairs. He was furious. Are you satisfied now? You've finally driven Heidi out. You're very proud, aren't you? This guy is an idiot. If my biological mother wasn't downstairs watching, I would definitely retort him to death. I pretended to sigh mournfully. Brother, I know you don't like me. You can say whatever you want. My mother's face was quite displeased. Leo, don't forget that Judy is your biological sister. I don't have a sister as insidious and cunning as her. That's enough. If you keep talking nonsense like this, get out of here. Leo gave me a cold look. If I leave, then she'll get what she wants. Only an idiot would do that. I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows. It's as if he thinks he's so smart. After Heidi left, Leo started to find fault with me everywhere and oppose me. It seemed that he wanted to get justice for his precious sister. Sure enough, he's a sister con. That day, the water heater in my room broke down. My mother took the opportunity to ask me if I wanted to move into Heidi's room. It was said that in the whole villa, that room had the best lighting, a super large bathtub, and a cloakroom big enough to run in. I hesitated for a moment but still politely declined. Forget it, I'm afraid my brother will be unhappy. Mom stroked my forehead. Don't worry about your brother. Judy can live wherever she wants. Mom will ask someone to redecorate that room and make it in the style you like. Okay, actually, I didn't want to live in Heidi's room, but in order to annoy Leo, I readily agreed. The next day, the servant started cleaning the room. Looking at the stacks of high-end designer clothes in the cloakroom and the dazzling array of shoes, it's no exaggeration to say that any one of these clothes is worth what I spent on food, clothing, housing, and transportation in the James family for 10 years. I wonder if the pampered Heidi can get used to the rhythm of life in the slums. Leo suddenly burst in and shouted angrily, "What are you doing?" Several servants looked at each other. An aunt explained carefully, "Master Leo, the madam ordered us to sort out the things in this room. It's going to be renovated soon." "Why does it need to be renovated?" The aunt looked at me and didn't say anything more. Leo immediately understood and his expression turned gloomy. "Judy, what are you up to this time?" I was swiping my phone and replied casually, "Oh. Mom said she'll redecorate this room and let me move in. This is Heidi's room. That's why it needs to be redecorated." He sneered angrily. "Can you have some decency?" I turned off my phone and looked at him directly. "Can you stop being so annoying?" "What? Could it be that you like Heidi? Are you crossing the line as siblings? Although you're not biological siblings, it still feels a bit strange, doesn't it?" Leo's face darkened, and he looked at me as if I were a bag of garbage. "Are you crazy? It seems it's not what I thought. Since it's not, forget what I said. I advise you to stay away from Heidi. That woman is not a good person. I think you're the one who doesn't look like a good person. You deliberately let those two people stay in our home, right? Just to drive Heidi out. What kind of person do you think I am? I'm your biological sister. I don't have a sister like you." "Fine. I don't want to pretend anymore." "Sure. Then we can save the trouble of greeting each other in the future, except in front of our parents. What do you think?" Leo looked at me with a cold gaze. "I won't let you get what you want." At first, I didn't know what Leo meant by that, until 2 weeks later, he brought Heidi home. I understood. At the dining table, both my father and mother were there. After not seeing her for 2 weeks, Heidi had become much darker and her skin was rougher. The soles of her shoes were covered in mud. She stood there timidly. It seems that it only takes 2 weeks for a wealthy young lady to turn into a rural girl. I expected that Heidi would come back again. After all, the IQ of that family would eventually return to normal. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. Leo must have played a big part in this. Mom and Dad. I brought Heidi back. My mother's face darkened. "Leo, what are you doing?" The other person said sincerely, "Mom, Heidi has suffered a lot these 2 weeks. Her hands are full of blisters. Please let her stay. After all, our family can afford to support one more person, right?" I sneered. "In 2 weeks, she has indeed suffered a lot. I wonder if he ever thought about how I spent my first 17 years. Dad, Mom, I really miss you so much." Heidi's voice sounded with a hint of sobbing. My mother was somewhat moved when she heard this and looked at her. My father put down his cutlery and said with concern, "Heidi, what did your biological parents say?" "They only know how to gamble at the poker table every day. They also said that they won't care about me anymore in the future." "I don't believe you at all. Based on my understanding of the couple, David and Ella, to them, Heidi is now a veritable cash cow. Would they really ignore her?" My father didn't say anything more. My mother also fell into silence. After all, they had raised her for 17 years. Even if it were a kitten or a puppy, they would have developed feelings for it. Not to mention a person. How can you say lose it, just like that? Heidi returned to the Lincoln family. Leo immediately lashed out at me. "Judy, now that Heidi is back, you should return her room to her, right? I really suspect that in his previous life, he was a dog of Heidi's. You should ask Mom, not me. Aren't you the one who wants to occupy her room?" Heidi tugged at Leo, looking timid, and said softly, "Brother, forget it. Look at these two siblings echoing each other. It makes me seem like the bad guy. Wasn't it her who occupied my room and my position for a full 17 years? How come it's my fault in your eyes?" Leo snorted and said casually, "Maybe it's because you don't have the good fortune to live in this family." That really stung. Just because of this sentence, the relationship between Leo and me will never be eased in this life. I sneered coldly. "Mom is in the tea room, right?" The two people opposite looked puzzled. Slap. As soon as the recording on the phone finished playing, my mother slapped Leo hard. The sound was crisp and loud. The bright red handprint on that fair face made me feel so satisfied. Heidi stood there stunned. Leo covered his mouth with a dazed expression, seemingly not expecting this outcome either. "Mom, you hit me. Can't I hit you? Your sister's name is Judy, not Judy. Try being rude to your sister again next time." My mother paused. "Heidi, I'll ask the butler, Lee, to arrange a new room for you, since you're back. Get along well with Judy, understand?" Heidi looked at me, then lowered her eyes and replied obediently, "I understand, Mom. I won a complete victory in this round." Just as I walked up to the second floor, Leo grabbed my arm. He stared at me angrily. "You actually recorded it." "That's right. I'm much more despicable and shameless than you think." "Judy, are you crazy?" "Yes. Do you have the medicine for it?" The other person was extremely angry and stared at me with burning eyes. I gave him a sweet smile. "Leo, I'm a favorite in front of Mom now. I advise you, it's better not to mess with me." After saying this, I walked away swaggeringly. When school started in September, my mother transferred me to the private high school where Heidi was studying. It was a veritable elite private school. I saw several familiar faces, all of whom I had met at the banquet before. Mia was also there. Mia. Heidi went up to greet her, but received a roll of the eyes in return. To be fair, she really likes rolling her eyes. Mia whispered something to the girl next to her. The girl suddenly understood, and her gaze towards Heidi became a little more contemptuous and disdainful. Did her mother go to jail later? No, we felt sorry for her, so we let it go. Her father was really terrifying. You're right, you didn't see that scene. I still have a psychological shadow. The two of them spoke with disdain and left while discussing. Heidi pursed her lips tightly and stood still, clutching her school bag. I didn't expect that the friendship between these wealthy young ladies could also fall apart so easily. I felt a bit emotional. Fortunately, Heidi and I were not in the same class. Otherwise, it would really affect my mood during class every day. Just as I sat down, a voice filled with surprise sounded. Judy, could it be that there's someone here who knows me? I looked up and saw that it was the girl who had chatted with me at the Lincoln family that day. Fate is really amazing. I don't know why, but I was quite happy to see her. Oh, it's you. The other person also smiled happily and extended a hand. My name is Susan. Susan was my desk mate this semester and naturally became my first friend in the new school. Soon, I discovered her uniqueness. During lunchtime, the two of us went to the cafeteria for lunch. After I got my meal and just picked up the tray, I was suddenly bumped into, and the soup splashed all over my school uniform. I turned around and it was actually Mia. When she saw me, she habitually rolled her eyes, gave a snort, and walked away with her tray. I was a bit speechless. What kind of person is this? When I got back to the table, Susan looked at my dress and asked what had happened. It's nothing, I was bumped into and got rolled my eyes at. She raised her eyebrows. Mia, how did you know? Susan shook her head, then stood up and walked straight towards the tables in the back rows. I didn't understand what she was going to do for a moment. Could it be that she was going to stand up for me? So I quickly got up and followed her. Mia was chatting and laughing with several girls at the table. When Susan walked up to them, they all fell silent instantly and looked at her in unison. Who did it? Susan crossed her arms, raised her chin, and looked like a proud little princess. Only then did everyone look at me behind her. They looked at each other in dismay for a moment. Mia's expression froze, and the cutlery in her hand slipped, and Susan's gaze was now fixed directly on her. I didn't mean it. To my surprise, although she seemed very reluctant, Mia explained very quickly. So what? Susan still had that proud expression, after a moment of silence. The other person lowered her eyebrows. I'm sorry, I was stunned. I really didn't expect that Mia would actually apologize to me. This Susan, could she be the school bully of this school? After the commotion subsided, we sat back at the table. I absent-mindedly took a few bites of food, but in the end, I couldn't resist my curiosity. Susan, isn't your father the chairman of our school? How did you know? Maybe I showed too much shock, and the other person burst out laughing. I'm kidding. My dad just runs an art gallery. He's not the principal. Then why does everyone seem to be afraid of you? Maybe it's because of my brother. I seem to understand. Is your brother the school bully? Susan shook her head. No, he's the top student in the whole school. Oh, so he's a straight-A student. It wasn't until the evening that I understood the real reason why Susan was so domineering at school. Looking at the boy standing next to that Rolls-Royce Cullinan, wearing a dark school uniform, with sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, I grabbed Susan who was about to leave. Is he your brother? Yeah, gosh, he's so handsome. I swear I've never seen such a handsome boy in my life. Not even on TV. No wonder Susan can act so arrogantly at school. It turns out that all the girls in the school want to be her sister-in-law. I blurted out without thinking. Does your brother have a girlfriend? No? Do you want me to introduce you to each other? Susan smiled at me suggestively. I covered my mouth, feeling a bit like I was dreaming, until she pulled me over to the boy. Brother, this is Judy, Aunt Monica's daughter. You two should get to know each other. Looking at him up close, I could hardly take my eyes off him. He had a straight nose, thin lips, and his heroic eyebrows slanted into his temples. His dark eyes were like rippling pools, captivating people's hearts. He could wear the school uniform with such a graceful and handsome look. I guess there are not many people like him on the entire internet. He's really a rare beauty. Kevin, the boy's deep and dark eyes looked at me, and he extended a hand. The way these two siblings greeted people was quite similar. Hello, my name is Judy. After a brief introduction, the two of them got into the car. Judy, see you tomorrow. Susan said goodbye to me cheerfully. She actually called me Judy. As if we had known each other for a long time. I hadn't made friends for a long time. And my heart suddenly softened. I also smiled and waved at her, goodbye. When I got home and just walked up the steps, I heard someone talking in the yard. When I walked over, I suddenly kicked something with my foot. Heidi immediately stood up from the rattan chair. When she saw me, her expression was a bit flustered. Who are you calling? I asked her with a frown. No one, no one. The other person quickly composed herself and looked at me calmly. She has pretty good acting skills. I knew very well that David would never cut off contact with Heidi so easily. If she were a bit smarter and didn't do anything stupid, it wouldn't be a problem for her to stay quietly in the Lincoln family until she graduated or went abroad to study. Most likely, my mother would also find her a suitable blind date partner with good conditions, ensuring that she would have a comfortable life with no financial worries. Unfortunately, Heidi is destined to be restless. Just last night, I heard her speaking evasively and asking Leo for money. Even though she's not the biological daughter of the Lincoln family now, her monthly pocket money is still no less than 6 figures. She's just a student. Isn't 6-figure pocket money enough for her? If she's using that money to subsidize David and his wife, then she's extremely stupid, because the desires of that couple are as vast as the ocean. Even if you were to move a mountain of gold, it wouldn't be enough to satisfy them. However, all of this has nothing to do with me. If she wants to ruin herself, no one can stop her. I was about to turn around. Mom and Dad went to a banquet. Brother said he wants to have a barbecue in the yard. Do you want to come? Heidi suddenly asked me. Is she really being so kind? No need. The words were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back in time and changed my words. Sure. I changed my clothes and came down to the backyard. I saw several unfamiliar faces. They were all boys, very young, at most 2 or 3 years older than me. Hey, Leo, who is this? A somewhat cynical boy saw me. Leo was grilling meat. When he heard this, he looked up. A malicious smile curled at the corner of his lips. Our family's aunt. The boy didn't quite believe it. Really, your family's aunt is quite good-looking. Oh, brother, why would you say that about Judy? Heidi glared at Leo coquettishly, as if she was standing up for me. I had an urge to roll my eyes like Mia. I wanted to turn around and leave, but after hesitating for a moment, I decided not to. If I left like that, they would surely say bad things about me, so I sat down in the rattan chair with confidence. Leo finished grilling the streaky pork and put it on a plate. Brother Harry, Brother Ron, Brother Jim, the grilled meat is ready. Heidi called out to everyone enthusiastically, but she didn't call me. Everyone rushed forward and discussed the taste of the grilled meat. It seemed that they had completely forgotten about me. Heidi glanced at me subtly, with a hint of pride in her eyebrows. Trying to embarrass me in this way is really too childish. While they were eating, I turned off my phone and went to the restroom. Those people probably thought I had left. When I returned to the backyard, I heard them chatting enthusiastically. Leo, your sister seems quite arrogant. Indeed, she doesn't look like she came from the slums at all. Why do I feel that the relationship between you two siblings isn't very good? Leo's voice filled with disdain sounded. If any of you want this kind of sister, you can have her. I don't care for her, really. Then I won't be polite. I don't really need a sister, but maybe she could be my girlfriend. You have quite a unique taste. What's wrong? Isn't she pretty? How many girls from the slums are clean? You don't seem to mind at all. Damn, she's your own sister. Is this how you act as a brother? Heidi said that there are a lot of rumors about her in that countryside. I advise you, it's okay to have some fun with her, but don't take it seriously. I felt my heart pounding violently. Thumping like a drum, my temples were throbbing, my hands couldn't help but tremble. They really don't know how to stay out of trouble and just had to provoke me. Fine, then let's all go down together. I walked up to Leo expressionlessly. Before he could react, I kicked over the charcoal grill in front of him. Leo was shocked and quickly stepped back, but he accidentally tripped over the nearby step. Amid the exclamations of everyone, he fell to the ground covered in charcoal. Ah! Leo howled as he got up, looking extremely confounded, but it didn't end there. I then walked up to Heidi and slapped her hard. Slap. The sound was crisp and loud, because I had done farm work since I was a child. My hand strength was not small. Heidi was slapped and turned her head to the side. The right side of her face quickly swelled up and turned red. The other few boys were stunned and stared at me in disbelief. I shook my hand. Heidi covered her face, and her eyes were filled with humiliation and hatred. Tell me, what exactly are these rumors? She looked at me resentfully and didn't answer. Judy, Leo gritted his teeth and said, "Are you crazy?" I sneered at him. "Leo, you forgot what Mom warned you last time. You'd better hope for the best this time." And Heidi, "I was just worrying that I didn't have a reason to drive you out. You really know how to bring trouble on yourself." Both of them were taken aback at the same time. Leo looked absurd. "You didn't." "Record it again." I shook my head. He let out a sigh of relief. I took a video. The other person's face turned black. Heidi's expression changed instantly. She was really scared. "Give me your phone," Leo said coldly. "What kind of dream are you having, Judy? Give me your phone, and I can let bygones be bygones." It's as if I'm begging for his forgiveness. I pretended to open my phone and pressed a few times on the screen. In fact, I didn't take a video at all just now. "What did you do?" Leo's expression was serious, and he was uncharacteristically nervous. "Nothing. I just sent the video to Mom." Heidi shook her head nervously. "Mom will definitely be angry. Brother, make her take it back quickly." I sneered at the two of them. "You want me to take it back? Sure." The two of you kneel down, and maybe I'll consider it. After all, spreading rumors also comes with a price. What's more, the two of you were basically spreading pornographic rumors just now, right? Leo became furious. "You're dreaming." "Fine then." I got up and was about to leave. Heidi panicked. "Judy, you can't leave." I ignored her. Behind me, I heard gritted teeth. "Why do you say I'm spreading rumors? Ella told me that you seduced David." My footsteps suddenly stopped. Memories of humiliation came crashing in like a tidal wave. Since I was 12 years old, David has been sizing me up with strange looks, whether I was cooking or doing my homework. I always felt that something was following me like a shadow. It was terrifying. Once, Ella went out at night. I was taking a shower in the bathroom when I suddenly heard someone trying to open the bathroom door. I was scared out of my wits. Through the frosted glass, I could vaguely see David's overbearing figure. I quickly put on my clothes and braced myself against the door. Fortunately, I had locked the door in advance, and the aluminum alloy door was strong enough. Otherwise, I couldn't imagine what would have happened that day. After that, I guarded against David like I was guarding against a thief. Every night before going to bed, I locked the door tightly and put a kitchen knife under my pillow. Fortunately, Ella has a strong personality, so David didn't dare to be too blatant. Later, when I started junior high school, I didn't hesitate to apply for boarding, even on Saturdays and Sundays. I stayed at school, afraid that the teacher would find out I didn't go home. I bought some bread in advance and put it in the dormitory. I survived on those 2 slices of bread throughout the weekend. Later, when David saw that I didn't go back for a long time, he actually threatened to cut off my living expenses and even forced me to drop out of school. Of course, I didn't want to drop out of school, even though I hated him so much that I wanted to kill him. I had to go back obediently on weekends. Maybe Ella also sensed something. She kept a close eye on David on Saturdays and Sundays, which made me feel relieved. But there are always accidents. For a while, Ella broke her leg and was hospitalized. I thought David would stay in the hospital to take care of her, so I was careless and slept soundly at night. Then an accident happened. In the middle of the night, when I realized that someone was using a key to open the door of my room, it was already too late. Before I could get out of bed, David pounced on me like a fierce, hungry wolf. Then he started pulling at my clothes and groping all over my body. I yelled as hard as I could, even screamed wildly, trying to attract the attention of my neighbors, but he immediately balled up a pillowcase and stuffed it into my mouth, pressing me down hard and undoing his belt and taking off his pants on his own. At that moment, I thought it was all over for me. My whole life was over, but even if I were to die, I couldn't end up like this. That would be too easy for David, so I kicked and struggled like crazy, using all my strength, like the last struggle before death. David was careless for a moment and let go of his hand to press down on my leg. I bit his arm like a dog. At that moment, I seemed to want to eat his flesh. Using all my strength in my teeth, David let out a cry of pain. Then, I quickly picked up the kitchen knife under the pillow and slashed at him. I hit the target. Blood immediately gushed from David's shoulder. He finally stopped. After that day, Ella should have guessed something. She started scolding me without restraint, accusing me of seducing David. She said all kinds of ugly things. A long time ago, I always thought that it would be better if I were an orphan, even if I was born in an orphanage. It would be better than being born into the James family. Just when I was about to accept my fate, I didn't expect that there would be a turning point in my life when I was 17. It turned out that I wasn't their biological child. I could have avoided all those years of miserable life. when I was taken back to the Lincoln family and saw Heidi dressed in gorgeous clothes like a princess, did I feel hatred in my heart? Of course I did. This girl had taken my place in life. Enjoying the love and favor of the whole family, she lived a life of luxury every day, indulging in refined pleasures. She was doted on as a princess by my parents, while I was treated like a pig or a dog by her parents. At this moment, she was still speaking recklessly, desperately rubbing salt in my wounds. This is something that cannot be tolerated. I suddenly turned around and walked up to Heidi. Slap, slap. 2 slaps made her see stars. Heidi couldn't pretend anymore. She was extremely angry and instinctively wanted to fight back, but I didn't give her a chance. I grabbed her neck. Your dear mother is really good at smearing me with your father's character. Do you think I would seduce him? Are you all a family of devils? You won't let me off. Don't think I don't know. You actually knew your own background a long time ago, right? You're all a bunch of insidious, cunning, despicable and dirty people. Worse than rats. Heidi gradually had trouble breathing and started rolling her eyes. At this moment, I really wanted to strangle her to death. Leo rushed up and pushed me away, shouting loudly, "Are you crazy?" Heidi caught her breath, coughing and crying hysterically. I looked at the two of them coldly. Suddenly, a boy looked outside and said timidly, "Mrs. Lincoln." I turned around and saw that it was my mother, Monica, who had come back. She was looking at us, with a calm and indifferent expression. I don't know how long she had been standing there. Leo and Heidi were a bit flustered. "Mom, when did you get back?" "I just got home," my mother said as she walked over. "What's going on? Are you arguing again?" No, we accidentally knocked it over." Heidi quickly dried her tears and glanced at me. Presumably, she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. "Why don't you call the servants to clean it up? What if there's a fire?" "Okay, Mom, I'll call the butler." "Lee, right away." Those boys sensibly said goodbye to my mother one by one and went home. I also planned to say something and then go upstairs, but I saw that my mother was looking at me without moving. Her eyes were different from usual. She looked very sad, heartbroken, and regretful. "Mom," I couldn't help calling out. She gently lowered her eyes. Then she smiled at me. "Judy, go upstairs and rest early. You still have to go to school tomorrow." I nodded obediently. "Okay." As Heidi secretly answered the phone more and more often, not only I and Leo, but even my mother noticed something was wrong. "Heidi, what on earth have you been doing recently? Did you get into some trouble at school?" Heidi was silent for a long time. Finally, she couldn't hold it in and said timidly, "David and the other one are asking me for money. They also said that if I don't give it to them, they'll take me back from here." Upon hearing this, Leo looked indignant. "What? They actually ask you for money? You're just a student and you're not working. Don't they have their own hands and feet? Why do they have to ask you for money?" Heidi sniffled sadly, and her eyes began to redden. "They're just 2 scoundrels. Mom, I really don't want to go back with them." My mother sat by the French window, took a sip of coffee, and thought for a while. "This isn't a solution. Why don't you ask your parents if they want to come and work for our family? Your father, that is. Can David drive? Your mother can probably do some housework too. The monthly salary is $30,000. If they're willing, they can come and work here. Anyway, we have to hire someone." Heidi looked stunned and couldn't believe my mother's words. Although Leo was surprised, he clearly didn't agree with this proposal. "Mom, have you forgotten what they did to mess up the banquet last time? One is a thief and the other is a lunatic. Why should we hire them?" My mother said calmly again. "Everyone has greed. Only after receiving a lesson will they reflect and restrain themselves. We should give others a chance. As for David, he was probably just drunk and out of control. Just ask him to pay attention. After all, they are Heidi's biological parents and also Judy's adoptive parents. We should help them if we can. Of course, it still depends on whether they are willing themselves. If they're not, we won't force them." A driver and a nanny with a monthly salary of $30,000, only an idiot wouldn't want that. In a place like Village, if someone could find a job that pays $3,000 a month, they would consider themselves very lucky. What's more, David and Ella are both illiterates who haven't studied for a few years. Although Ella refused my suggestion last time, circumstances have changed. At that time, they were honored guests of the Liu family. They didn't have to do anything and could enjoy good food and accommodation. But in the current situation, as long as one isn't a fool, they know what to do. As I expected, the day after my mother said those words, David and Ella appeared in front of the Lincoln family villa with simple luggage. Coming back here again, the two of them were overjoyed, their eyes, like those of mice, darted around. They sat here and touched there. The butler, Lee, had to cough several times. The two of them realized that they weren't here as guests this time, so they immediately stood up obediently. First of all, let me tell you, the first rule of working in the Lincoln family is that you must keep your hands clean. Second, no alcohol. Do you understand? David and Ella, you might as well just ask for our ID cards. Presumably, they also know the truth that when you're under someone else's roof, you have to bend your head. After some hesitation, the two of them nodded awkwardly. We understand. For Heidi, having her biological parents work as a nanny and a driver in her adoptive parents' house is obviously not a good experience. The former daughter of the Lincoln family, who used to live a pampered life, has fallen from grace. The butler, Lee, and the other servants in the house no longer treat her as someone important. What's more, Ella is really not sensible. Sometimes, when she was cleaning the windows in the living room and saw Heidi coming downstairs with her school bag, she would immediately drop the rag in her hand. Heidi, are you going to school so early? Do you want to have some bird's nest? It was just cooked in the kitchen. Mom secretly saved a bowl for you. Heidi had a dark expression on her face, and the disgust and contempt in her eyes were unmasked. Since she was a child, she had eaten countless delicacies. It's just a bowl of bird's nest. In the Lincoln family, she could have it whenever she wanted and pour it out whenever she wanted, but her dear mother had to come out and act up, saying that she had secretly saved a bowl for her. It was really ridiculous. The other servants around started covering their mouths and snickering. Heidi's face turned pale, meeting my mocking and sneering expression. Her anger grew even stronger. She opened her mouth and snapped at her mother. Enough. Can you just leave me alone? Don't talk to me, don't greet me, don't do anything. When we got to the yard, her father was already waiting by the car. After seeing the two of us, he quickly opened the back car door. Then, as he drove, he sighed with emotion. Heidi, to be honest, your father has never driven a Mercedes-Benz G-Class even at the age of 50. We're really lucky because of our daughter. A luxury car is a luxury car. TSK. I have to swap with another driver tomorrow. What's the name of the car he's driving? Rolls-Royce. Right, Rolls-Royce. Oh, I've only seen this car on TV before. Your father has so many cars in the garage. If I had known that being a driver in the Lincoln family was so great and I could drive so many luxury cars, you should have told me earlier, daughter. I turned my head and looked at Heidi with a half-smile. She obviously couldn't stand it anymore and shouted loudly, "Stop the car." Her father didn't understand. What? Stop the car. Stop the car. I told you to stop the car. I'll walk to school by myself. In the end, Heidi didn't get out of the car, but after this episode, David didn't dare to say anything more. Perhaps afraid of being recognized by her classmates, Heidi ordered David to stop again when they were still a long way from the school gate. We'll get off here. You can go back. After saying that, she opened the car door. I lazily replied, keep driving. I want to get off at the school gate. Heidi was furious. Judy. What do you mean? Nothing. I just don't want to walk. The other person pursed her lips and stared at me fiercely. David looked at her hesitantly. Heidi, you, get lost. I clicked my tongue and shook my head. Heidi, you unfilial daughter, this is your own father, yet you keep telling him to get lost. When we arrived at the school gate, I deliberately tidied up my clothes for a while. Heidi walked very slowly. She should be waiting for her father to leave before entering the school. It doesn't matter, I've already seen Mia, so I picked up my school bag and got out of the car. That's okay, driver David, you can go back now. David was stunned for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to call him like that. Sure enough, Mia looked over in this direction. When she saw the person in the driver's seat, her eyes widened. After the car left, Judy, was that person just now Heidi's father? Yeah, I nodded. Mia felt a chill. Didn't he go back to the countryside? Why is he at your house again? He's our family's driver now. What? The other person looked incredulous. Then, as if thinking of something, what about Heidi's mother? She's working as a nanny in our house. No way. What was your mother thinking? How could she dare to hire such people? Isn't that woman a thief? Mia's voice was so loud that it attracted the attention of the surrounding classmates. When Heidi walked to the school gate, she had already become the center of attention. Everyone was looking at her with strange looks and whispering, she really has a thick skin. Yeah, if it were me, I would have gone back to the countryside on my own long ago. I heard that her mother stole Mia's gem ring before. I guess she's not a good person either. Hey, I lost a pair of earrings in the classroom last week. Could it be that she stole them? Heidi's face turned extremely ugly. and her fingers clenched into fists. In the end, she still didn't say a word and continued walking into the school. In the third week of the new semester, it was the anniversary dance of No. 1 high school. Susan said that this was a tradition of the school for the past 20 years. Every year at the start of the new semester in autumn, an anniversary dance would be held. Girls had to wear evening gowns, boys had to wear suits and ties, and everyone had to have a dance partner. I felt a bit sighing. A noble school was indeed a noble school. There was actually an anniversary dance. As a country girl like me, I couldn't dance and couldn't find a dance partner either. What should I do? Can I not attend? Of course not. There will be a roll call. There was actually a roll call. I felt discouraged. The dance is really fun. Why don't you go? Susan was puzzled. Because I can't dance, and I don't know where to find a dance partner either. Come on, I thought it was something serious. Don't worry, worst case scenario. I'll lend you my brother. These words made me startle and I immediately sat up straight. What did you say? She was taken aback and patted her chest. I'll lend you my brother. Will he agree? And, considering your brother's popularity in our school, are you sure it's still in time? Don't worry, my brother definitely hasn't promised anyone else. Susan was very certain. How do you know so clearly? Because I was his dance partner last year. I really didn't understand. Why? It's impossible that a guy like your brother couldn't find a dance partner in our school, right? The image of that handsome face popped up in my mind. I thought that as long as he beckoned, a large number of girls would be chasing after him desperately. He could find a dance partner, but he didn't like them. In the end, he could only choose me. I was so angry with him. I asked Jack to be my dance partner, but my brother messed it all up. Who is Jack? He's the second in our grade. Wow. I looked at Susan with admiration, feeling that she was the kind of woman in the circle of big shots. However, she seemed to have forgotten one thing. But your brother may not like me either, so how could he agree to be my dance partner? I think he will definitely agree. Susan smiled mysteriously. Why? Because you're his fiancé. These words were so shocking that I almost choked on my saliva, seeing that I didn't believe it. Susan continued, you don't know this yet, right? My mother and your mother are the best of friends. Before you and my brother were even born, they decided on the engagement between you two. Over the years, Heidi has always regarded herself as my brother's girlfriend. My mother even joked earlier this year that they should get engaged after graduating from high school. However, since you and Heidi were switched at birth, the ones with the engagement should be you and my brother. So, aren't you his fiancé? These words made my mind go blank and I didn't react for a long time. Are you serious or just joking? Susan sighed and patted my shoulder. Of course I'm serious. Otherwise, do you think I'm so familiar with everyone? As for Heidi, it's because I've never liked her since I was a child. I always felt that she was very scheming. Actually, my brother doesn't like her much either. He used to say that Heidi didn't look like Aunt Monica's daughter at all. Unexpectedly, his words came true. But don't worry, nothing happened between my brother and Heidi. It's just that the adults were trying to match them up. Although Susan seemed to be telling the truth, I was still skeptical. After all, an arranged marriage in childhood was really incredible. As a result, in the afternoon, I was proven wrong. When Susan and I were walking out of the school gate after school, we saw Heidi standing with a boy across the road. She had a smile on her face and looked shy, as if she wanted to say something but held back. And that boy with exquisite features, a straight nose, and thin lips was none other than Kevin. Goodness me, what Susan said was actually true. After about a few minutes, Heidi shyly waved at Kevin and then left. Susan quickly pulled me across the road. Brother, what did Heidi just say to you? Before the other person could answer, Susan continued, if she wants you to be her dance partner, don't agree. I've already promised Judy that you'll be her dance partner at the anniversary dance. Kevin's eyes were light, and he immediately looked at me. I was so scared that I quickly shook my head. It wasn't me who said that, I said it. Susan patted her chest and said righteously, brother, the one with an engagement to you isn't Heidi at all. Don't have any more contact with her in the future. Judy is your fiancé. Got it. I held my forehead. Couldn't she have said this after I left? Stop making such a fuss. Can you be quiet? Kevin tapped his sister on the forehead. Why did you hit me? What I said is the truth. All right. I didn't promise her anyway. Really? Susan was delighted. Then you've agreed to be Judy's dance partner. Kevin looked at me. His dark peach blossom eyes were clear and handsome, shining with brilliance. Thump, thump. My little heart was beating really fast. Unfortunately, the driver of Susan's family came, and in the end, Kevin didn't answer his sister's question. The next day was Saturday. I got up relatively early. I read an English book in my room for a while. Suddenly, I heard the butler, Lee, calling me outside the door. It turned out that there were guests at home. On the sofa in the living room, there was a very beautiful woman sitting. She was wearing a white and graceful long dress, with big waves, red lips, and high heels. She was definitely a great beauty. Aunt Alice, you're back. When Heidi saw the other person, the smile on her face was particularly sweet. The other person responded casually, I was wondering who she was. You're Judy. Right. The beautiful woman suddenly looked at me with a smile. My mother smiled and then looked at me. Judy, this is your Aunt Alice. She's Susan's mother. I was stunned. Susan's mother was so young and beautiful. It seemed that her brother didn't become handsome for no reason. He had definitely inherited his mother's beauty. Hello, Aunt Alice. I quickly nodded and greeted her. Hello. The other person smiled amiably, then took off a dark green jade bracelet from her wrist and walked towards me. Auntie went abroad some time ago and just came back yesterday. This is the first time I've met you, so I'll give you a little gift. My intuition told me that this thing must be very expensive. Just as I didn't know how to reply, my mother had already spoken to stop her. This is too precious. Judy is still a child. It would be bad if she was hurt. You'd better keep it for now. How can that be? Judy is so good looking. What if someone else chases her away? I have to plan ahead for my son. What did that mean? Seeing that I looked puzzled, Aunt Alice smiled gently and explained to me, this was left to me by my mother-in-law. Oh, so, could it be? I suddenly opened my eyes wide. Oh, Judy, why are you looking at Auntie like that? Actually, my son isn't ugly at all. Kevin, I blurted out. Have you met each other? Aunt Alice looked surprised. I nodded. Susan and I are in the same class. My mother also raised her eyebrows. When did you meet Kevin? Why didn't you tell Mom? Just a few days ago. Well, Auntie didn't lie to you, did she? Aunt Alice winked at me. I thought she was being too modest. If Kevin was ugly, then there would be no good-looking people in the world. So I shook my head sincerely. No. When Aunt Alice heard my words, she immediately beamed with joy. Oh, Monica, I think the day when we become in-laws is coming soon. How about arranging an engagement for them when they graduate? My face turned red. How did we get to this topic all of a sudden? Crash! A sudden sound came. Everyone immediately looked over. Heidi was crouching on the ground with a pale face. It seemed that she had bumped into the side tea table, causing the teacup to fall. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on her, Heidi's face was pale and embarrassed. Sorry, I didn't mean to. The servant immediately came to clean up. Ella, who was wearing a servant's uniform, saw Heidi crouching on the ground and called out loudly. Heidi, are you okay? What happened? Let Mom check if you're hurt. Heidi's face was completely bloodless. She looked at Ella like a wooden person, and I didn't know what she was thinking. I glanced at them and didn't say anything. When I looked up, I found that my mother's expression was very gloomy. She was coldly staring at the mother and daughter crouching on the ground, with a burning gaze. Heidi is really pitiful. She lost her identity as the real daughter, and she thought she could marry into a wealthy family. But now that dream has also been shattered. Young Master Kevin was originally the person betrothed to Miss Judy when they were in their mother's wombs. Heidi was just occupying someone else's place. That's true. A pheasant is a pheasant, and a phoenix is a phoenix. Everything emphasizes being well-matched in social status. I heard that Mrs. Susan is the daughter of the chairman of Chandler's pharmaceutical industry. Her family is extremely wealthy. Oh, I'm so envious of Miss Judy. Her fiancé is so handsome, and his family is so rich. Moreover, young Master Kevin is the top student in No. 1 high school. Who isn't envious? It's just a pity that I didn't have a good birth in this life. I can only hope for a better one in the next life. I found it a bit funny. I didn't expect that even when taking a walk in the backyard, I could hear gossip about myself. It was clearly something that hadn't been settled yet, but everyone could chat about it so enthusiastically. What were you just saying? What about young Master Kevin? An eager and shrewd voice came. It was Ella. What we're saying is none of your business. That's right. How is it none of my business? You were clearly talking about Heidi just now. The atmosphere froze. That's right. We were talking about Heidi. She's been pestering young Master Kevin for so many years, but it turns out that she's a fake daughter. Her dream of marrying into a wealthy family has been shattered. She's really pitiful. Everyone burst into laughter. Who is young Master Kevin? Ella asked anxiously again. You don't know. The Mrs. Susan who came during the day today is the only daughter of the chairman of Chandler's pharmaceutical industry, and young Master Kevin is her son. What's the relationship between that young Master Kevin and our Heidi? Well, if Miss Judy hadn't come back, the person who would have married young Master Kevin in the future would have been your daughter. What a pity, your daughter almost married into a wealthy family. Ella didn't say anything more. Everyone chatted for a while and then dispersed. A gentle breeze blew. The moonlight shone on the treetops in the yard, forming mottled shadows. I looked at Ella. She was frowning tightly and lost in thought. The next morning, two young ladies wearing shopping guide uniforms came to the house. They opened a simple clothes rack in the living room and then started hanging up clothes. Each piece was new, with fine workmanship and exquisite texture. They all seemed to be evening gowns. Most importantly, each style was incredibly beautiful. I was stunned. My mother came over and took my hand affectionately, saying, "Judy, the anniversary dance of number 1 school is coming soon. Come and choose a dress. Mom will definitely make you the most eye-catching princess at the dance, just to choose a dress." They went to so much trouble. Indeed, poverty had limited my imagination. Just then, Heidi came in from outside. When she saw this scene, her eyes also lit up. The dresses this year seem to be much more beautiful than last year's, Mom. When my mother heard her voice, her eyes darkened and her tone became much colder. "You can choose one too." Heidi was absorbed in the dazzling array of dresses in front of her and didn't notice the change in my mother's attitude. A shopping guide lady smiled brightly and walked up to her with a dress in her hand. "Miss Heidi, this is a new silver mermaid-style evening gown that arrived at our store yesterday. The effect of wearing it is very good, and the texture is also excellent. Would you like to try it on?" Heidi's eyes were shining. She was about to nod and speak. "Judy, do you think it looks good?" My mother's voice suddenly sounded. "Actually, I also thought that dress was nice. I had originally wanted to ask the shopping guide lady to get it for me." I nodded upon hearing this. "It looks quite nice. Then try it on." The shopping guide lady was a bit confused, but she reacted quickly. In less than 3 seconds, the smile returned to her face. "This is Miss Judy, right? You're tall and have fair skin. This dress will definitely look very beautiful on you. Do you need me to go to the room with you to arrange the skirt?" "Okay. Thank you for your trouble." "You're welcome." Wait a minute. A figure suddenly rushed in front of me and snatched the dress from the shopping guide lady's hand. This dress was clearly liked by our Heidi first. Why should Judy try it on first? It was Ella. The shopping guide lady looked confused and didn't know what was going on. "May I ask who you are?" "I'm Heidi's mother." The shopping guide lady was slightly taken aback, looking at Ella, who was dressed as a servant, and then at my mother opposite. She looked even more confused. "What are you doing? Where is the butler?" "Lee." My mother's unhappy voice sounded in the hall. "What's wrong with me helping my daughter choose a dress? Your daughter is going to the anniversary dance. Doesn't our Heidi get to go too?" Ella replied confidently. "Heidi, go and try on this dress first. If you like it, Mom will buy it for you." Heidi didn't move. Ella seemed to think of something and casually asked, "By the way, how much is this dress?" The shopping guide lady looked at my mother. The other person nodded as a signal. "Ma'am, this evening gown is a new style in our store. After the discount, it's $238,000. Ella was stunned. After a while, she exclaimed in disbelief, "What kind of crappy dress costs $238,000? Are you robbing people? Or is this dress made of gold? Are you bullying us because we're from the countryside? You look decent, but why are you so heartless? What's your employee number? Do you believe that I'll file a complaint against you?" The shopping guide lady, "Enough, you can go down," my mother said sternly. Probably seeing that my mother was really angry, Ella shut up embarrassedly. She reluctantly threw the dress in her hand back to the shopping guide lady and left the living room muttering to herself. Heidi had a blank expression. I didn't know if she had gotten used to her biological mother embarrassing her. Anyway, this was a good thing. In the end, I chose a black small V-neck evening gown in a light luxury style. Heidi's mood was completely different from before. She casually chose a white one. Susan called and said that her brother had agreed to be my dance partner. I don't know if he was threatened by Aunt Alice or something. Susan also invited me to go to her house in the evening to practice dancing steps, and I readily agreed. After dinner, the driver sent me to the Susan family's villa. Their house was actually bigger than mine, but the decoration style was slightly different. "Judy," Susan waved at me enthusiastically. Next to her stood a tall, gentle, and handsome boy. He was good-looking, but obviously not her brother. "Who is this?" I asked her in a low voice. "Jack," Oh, the second in the grade. My brother is taking a shower, he'll be down soon, Susan added. I suddenly felt a great deal of pressure. The top student and the second top student in the grade were both here. It seemed that Jack was probably Susan's dance partner. The three of us went to an activity room and chatted casually. I wasn't very familiar with Jack, and most of the time, it was the two of them chatting. Before long, the door of the activity room was pushed open, and Kevin walked in wearing a white t-shirt and black casual pants. He had a straight nose, thin lips, and his appearance was as jade-like as beautiful. Gosh, so handsome. Every time I saw him, these words were the first to come to my mind. I grabbed Susan beside me. What's wrong? She asked. Your brother is so handsome. I can't hold myself back. Susan covered her mouth and chuckled. You can't hold yourself back already. What if you two get married someday? These words almost gave me a heart attack on the spot. Kevin across from us was getting closer and closer, so I stopped joking with her. Brother, I'm leaving Judy to you tonight. Jack and I are going outside to get something to eat first. They were going out, which meant that only I and her brother would be left here. I looked at Susan in a bit of a loss. She smiled innocently. Judy, I'm leaving. See you later. Just like that, I watched Susan and her sweetheart leave. When I turned around, I met a pair of dark and charming eyes. My heart was pounding, and I had to pretend to be calm. How should we start? Kevin gently hooked the corner of his lips, and his voice was clear and cold. Don't be nervous, relax your body. I'll teach you the most basic steps first. How could someone's voice be so pleasant, gentle, and tender, and he smelled so good? I didn't know what kind of shower gel or shampoo he used. Most importantly, he was so handsome and was also the top student in the grade. It's simply leaving no way for others to live. I was in a daze in my mind until the clear and cold voice sounded again. Do you remember what I just said? I suddenly came to my senses. What had he just said? I was doomed. I hadn't listened at all. I stammered and asked him, what did you just say? Kevin couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and his gaze became slightly deeper, but he didn't say anything. I felt extremely ashamed. He must be starting to doubt my intelligence. It seemed that I had to defend myself. Sorry, I was a bit distracted just now, but it's not my fault. You're too handsome. If it were an uglier teacher, I would have remembered it long ago. The other person seemed to smile, and his eyebrows and eyes relaxed. In that case, it's my fault then. Was I being too arrogant? Would you please say it again? I promise I'll listen carefully this time. Kevin lowered his eyes and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black and unfathomable, and his tone was somewhat meaningful. Are you sure? Sure. He seemed to smile again. Half an hour later, Kevin was supporting me as I limped, looking a bit speechless. I've never seen someone sprain their ankle while dancing the waltz. I covered my face. Maybe I'm really not suitable for learning to dance. After a sigh, I'll ask Uncle Wong to send you back. The car drove over. Kevin helped me onto the back seat, and he sat down beside me as well. I felt a bit embarrassed. Why don't you find another dance partner? Are you still planning to cause trouble for someone else? The other person looked at me with a faint gaze. His facial features were very delicate, and his eyebrows and eyes were extremely beautiful. Under his long and slender eyelashes, there was a layer of dense shadow. What he said, I have that idea. I said without blushing or feeling nervous. Then forget it. I'm afraid you'll get beaten up by others. The two families weren't too far apart, and it took 20 minutes to drive there. When we arrived at the Lincoln family's villa, I was about to get out of the car limping. I'll carry you on my back. Young Master Kevin gave the order. Isn't it inappropriate? Get on. The other person's tone was unyielding. I had to follow his order. After ringing the doorbell, the person who opened the door turned out to be Ella. When she saw it was me, she pursed her lips and showed a look of disdain. This was her conditioned reflex upon seeing me for the past 17 years, and it had become a muscle memory. No matter how my identity changed, it wouldn't make her change. I deliberately made my voice sound sweeter. Kevin, just put me on the sofa. As soon as I said this, Ella really looked at the other person with a surprised expression and blurted out, Are you young Master Kevin? Kevin was a bit confused. Who are you? Ella greedily sized up the boy in front of her, like the wolf grandmother seeing Little Red Riding Hood. Kevin, why are you here so late? A surprised voice came from behind. It appeared at the right time. I raised my eyebrows. The moment Heidi saw her sweetheart, her face was filled with surprise and joy. No, it was ecstasy. She seemed unable to believe it. Did you come to find me? Judy sprained her ankle, and I brought her back. Only then did Heidi notice me on his back. Her expression was like a cannonball falling straight in front of her, leaving her stunned. It took her a long time to come to her senses, and she asked almost in a trembling voice, how could you two be together? I ignored her and said first, Kevin, put me on the sofa first. Heidi was in a daze and stepped aside. Ella also stared at the two of us in shock. Kevin put me on the sofa and squatted down to check the sprained area for me. It's okay, it's not swollen, it shouldn't be a big problem. I've troubled you today, I said with a blushing face. He smiled gently. It's getting late, I'll go back now, you should rest early, okay? Kevin turned around and left, ignoring Heidi. Ella was in a hurry. Young Master Kevin is leaving. Heidi, go and see him off quickly. Heidi looked at the other person's back, looking lost and with tears in her eyes. Ella rushed to the door and watched her wealthy future son-in-law walking further and further away with a look of regret and reluctance. Her expression was as if she wanted to pull him back and let him chat with her daughter all night. I didn't stretch my legs and stand up until the car outside had left. The mother and daughter were almost shocked to the point of dropping their jaws, as if they were watching a magic trick. You didn't sprain your ankle at all. After a moment, Heidi's cold voice sounded. I smiled at her rarely. Yeah, Judy, do you still have any shame? To my surprise, she actually started scolding me directly. It seemed that she really loved Kevin deeply and hated me intensely because of that. Ella hated me to the core. You little slut, young Master Kevin likes our Heidi. Haven't you ever seen a man? You're so eager to throw yourself at him. Me, throwing myself at him. Who does Aunt Alice recognize as her daughter-in-law? Don't you know, Heidi, Kevin and I are currently in a relationship and are about to get engaged. I advise you to watch your mouths. You're lying. Heidi's face was red with anger. And she gritted her teeth. I've known Kevin for 17 years. Don't think you can seduce him. I smiled sweetly at her. So what if you've known him for 17 years? He didn't even look at you when he left, and I just pretended to sprain my ankle, and Kevin insisted on carrying me in. Heidi, you've occupied someone else's place for 17 years, but in the end, it's all in vain. You'd better go back to your slum quickly. In the future, find a poor man to marry and have a bunch of dirty and smelly children. That's your destiny, understand? Slap. Heidi's eyes were wide with anger, completely losing her mind, and she raised her hand and slapped me. Well done. Ella clapped her hands and laughed. Slap. I fought back without mercy, and my strength was much greater than Heidi's. Why do I say that? Because I slapped the corner of her mouth until it bled. Is it still well done now? I asked Ella in return. For the first time in 17 years, I openly provoked her, and I also slapped her biological daughter. The other person really flew into a rage. I'm going to tear you apart. Ella rushed over and started fighting with me. Soon, the panicked voice of the butler, Lee, came. Someone come and pull this crazy woman away. How dare she hit Miss Judy? She's gone too far. Heidi knelt in front of my mother and cried bitterly, saying that she had only had a dispute with me on impulse. Mom, I promise I'll never make Judy angry again. Please forgive me this time, okay? I'm begging you. In order not to leave the Lincoln family, she really went all out, even willing to lose her previous haughty pride, because she knew in her heart that once she left here, she would lose everything and stay at the bottom forever. Ella stood beside her without saying a word. The expression on her face said, apologizing is impossible. I will never apologize in this life. I know you like Kevin, but Heidi, I want to tell you that the person who has a childhood betrothal with Kevin is my biological daughter. That is, Judy. I hope you can put yourself in the right position in the future, understand? You're just the adopted daughter of the Lincoln family. I know, Mom, Kevin belongs to Judy. I won't have any delusions in the future. Heidi sobbed and wiped away her tears. She looked so pitiful while crying, perhaps stimulated by her daughter kneeling on the ground. Ella looked at my mother several times, and a trace of hatred welled up in her eyes. Judy is also at fault this time. Let's just forget about today's matter. You two can go down. Ella quickly helped Heidi up from the ground. The two of them left hand in hand. Judy, let Mom take a look at your face. Does it still hurt? My mother came over and asked with great concern. I subconsciously touched my right face. Actually, it doesn't hurt much. The slap I gave Heidi was heavier. No, I'll ask the butler, Lee, to bring some medicine. I hope it won't be swollen tomorrow. My mother insisted. I could only obediently follow her words. 2 days before the anniversary dance, my mother specially invited a stylist to our house to do a final makeup look for me. After arranging my hair, she took out a diamond necklace that was so dazzling that it could blind people and put it around my neck. looking at the noble and elegant girl in the mirror wearing an expensive evening gown. I couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, people rely on their clothes. When I walked into the living room, I received a lot of exaggerated praise. Miss Judy, you're like a fairy tonight. Goodness. Young Master Kevin will surely be stunned by your beauty tomorrow. I couldn't help laughing at what they said. You're exaggerating too much. Am I really that good-looking? Of course, don't you look in the mirror. You're even more beautiful than a female celebrity. I really envy young Master Kevin for finding such a beautiful girlfriend like you. The maid sisters praised me to the skies, while only Ella and Heidi were as quiet as chickens beside them. The expressions on the mother and daughter's faces were identical, gloomy and dark. The next day after school, I walked out of the school and saw David's car parked across the road. Heidi was already waiting for me in the car. I opened the car door. Judy, she called me initiatively. This was really something rare, like the sun rising from the west. What's the matter? Heidi shook her head and forced a smile. Nothing. I just want to get along well with you. I was wrong about what happened before, and I hope you can forgive me. I didn't know what tricks she was going to play this time. I replied lazily. Is that so? She pursed her lips slightly and lowered her eyebrows. Yes, I really know I was wrong. All right, I got it. After a moment of silence, can you forgive me? How about I treat you to milk tea? No need. Heidi's voice became dim, and she asked weakly, you're still angry with me, right? It was strange. I wasn't Leo. Why was she acting like this in front of me? I was about to refuse her again, but suddenly I thought of something. No, if you want to treat me, go ahead. She seemed to be happy. Dad, stop at the intersection ahead and go to that aroma milk tea shop to buy a cup of milk tea for me and Judy. David agreed immediately. The relationship between the father and daughter had improved a lot. About 20 minutes later, David came back with 2 unopened cups of milk tea. Heidi and I each took 1 cup. I poked the straw in front of them and took a few sips. As soon as we got home, Heidi suddenly turned pale. Beads of sweat were falling from her forehead like rain. She covered her stomach, trembling all over, and could hardly stand still. What's wrong with you? I asked calmly beside her, as if she understood something. Heidi looked at me in disbelief. The two of us confronted each other, but because of the unbearable abdominal pain, she fell to the ground and moaned continuously. Call for help quickly. Unfortunately, my phone just ran out of battery. In the huge living room, there was no one there. The house was especially quiet today. After a while, my mother walked down the stairs. When she saw Heidi lying on the ground, she wasn't surprised at all and had a calm expression. Mom, save me, Heidi begged like she had grasped a life-saving straw. There was a moment of silence in the air. If it were Judy lying on the ground, would your mother save her? Didn't you think of this outcome when you put the drug in the drink? Heidi's pale face showed a trace of panic, and she looked at the other person in shock. For the sake of our mother-daughter relationship, I can save you, but Heidi, you must answer me a question honestly. When did you know your own background? Heidi's body was trembling, and I didn't know if it was because of the pain or fear. She bit her lips tightly. After a long while, when you told me, Mom, this answer made my mother's eyes suddenly turn cold. Is that so? Your biological mother should be back soon. Why don't you wait a little longer? She will call ambulance for you. Heidi's tears fell instantly. Mom, save me, my stomach hurts so much. My mother didn't move, and her face was extremely stern. I had never seen her like this before. The strong will to survive prompted Heidi to crawl beside her school bag, tremblingly take out the phone, and start dialing. Brother, save me. She actually called Leo. Heidi, you and your parents conspired to poison Judy. And you actually called her own brother to save you. My mother gave the other person a cold look. Heidi shook her head in horror and defended herself. No, Mom, I didn't. Seeing that she still refused to wake up, I tried to persuade her kindly. Do you know how many cameras there are in your and your mother's rooms? And your father, David, since the day they came back to the Liu family. Your family of 3 has been under 24-hour surveillance. Otherwise, how could I dare to drink the cup of milk tea you gave me? Heidi, harming others will eventually harm yourself. You and your family will ultimately have to bear the consequences. These words made her freeze in place as if struck by lightning. Hasty footsteps came from outside the door. If there were no accidents, it was Ella. Sure enough, it was her, seeing me standing safely in the living room. Her expression was extremely complicated, but soon, she saw Heidi lying on the ground. Her face changed drastically. What's going on? The intense pain made Heidi's face bloodless, and she looked rather miserable. Ella probably already had a bad premonition. Heidi, you couldn't have drunk. It's impossible. I clearly made a mark. How could your father have taken the wrong one? She started to panic and shouted nervously, "Somebody, come quickly," but after shouting for a long time, there was no one. What's going on? Where is everyone? There's no one, everyone is off today. Ella widened her eyes, surprised and angry. You vicious crazy woman, what on earth did you do to our Heidi? My mother stared at her fiercely, her eyes seemingly about to burst into flames. You call me vicious? Who can compare to the viciousness of you and your daughter? Monica, have been smart all my life. Yet I was fooled around by you two insidious and vicious mother and daughter. Ella, how have you treated my daughter all these years? If I hadn't sent someone to investigate in the countryside, I'm afraid I would have been kept in the dark for the rest of my life. Do you still remember how many times she was brutally beaten by you and how many times she was kicked by your husband in these 17 years? The most vicious thing is that you had already recognized Heidi. You knew that she was enjoying all the love and favor in our family, getting whatever she wanted. Yet you still refused to show even a little bit of mercy to my daughter. You treated her worse than a pig or a dog. Are you even human? I actually raised a heartless wretch for 17 years. Just thinking about it makes me want to cut you and your daughter into 1,000 pieces. Hearing this, Ella let out a complacent sneer. So you know now, TSK. So what if you're rich? Your biological daughter still stayed in the countryside for all those years, to tell you the truth. When Heidi was 9 years old, my husband and I recognized her. All these years, we've been relying on the money she got from your family to get by. I should also thank you. While your daughter was harvesting wheat in our home, Heidi was playing the piano in your home. When she was feeding the pigs, our Heidi was learning to dance. When she was washing clothes in the freezing river in the snow, our Heidi was skiing abroad. Ha ha ha. I can only say that your daughter was born with a lowly life. Ella laughed maniacally. She probably forgot Heidi's situation at the moment. My mother clenched her fists tightly, and her eyes gradually became gloomy. Maybe your daughter will only live to be 17, while my daughter will live to be 99. This fatal blow made Ella suddenly stop talking and immediately fly into a rage. You bitch, if anything happens to our Heidi, I will never forgive you. I will kill you. My mother ignored her. Suddenly, the sound of a car came from the yard. Leo was back. Mom. Heidi sounded really strange on the phone. What's going on? Ella, seeing a savior, shouted excitedly, Leo, hurry up and save our Heidi, take her to the hospital. The other person looked confused. What's going on? There's no time to explain. Heidi is in danger now and must be taken to the hospital immediately. Leo probably also realized the seriousness of the problem and quickly squatted down. Heidi, can you hear me? Heidi was already very weak, but she could still speak constrainedly. Brother, save me quickly, go to the hospital. Okay, we'll go to the hospital right away. Don't worry, brother will take you there now. Don't go. A sharp shout rang out in the living room. Leo looked at his mother in surprise. Mom, Heidi is in danger now. If we don't take her to the hospital, it will be too late. You can call ambulance for her, but you can't take her to the hospital. Leo was very confused. Why, no reason. When I say no, it's no. Mom, are you confused? This is Heidi. My mother's eyes were sharp, and she said word by word, Leo, I'm very clear-headed. I'll say it again, you can call ambulance now, but you can't take her to the hospital. This is my order. The other person seemed to get angry too. He picked up Heidi directly. All right, Mom, I don't have time to talk about this with you now. Let's talk when I get back after taking Heidi to the hospital. Leo, if you walk out of this door with her today, don't call me Mom ever again. Hearing this, Leo's steps stopped. He turned around and looked at his mother in shock, as if trying to figure out if she was serious, but it was obvious that she wasn't joking. Ella was anxious. What are you stopping for? Hurry up, if we don't go now, it will be too late. Heidi also tightly grabbed his arm and weakly called out, Brother, save me. Leo hesitated for a moment and finally sighed and said, Mom, I'm sorry. He still left with Heidi in his arms, in the empty living room. Only my mother and I were left. Mom, I couldn't help calling out. In fact, from Leo's perspective, his choice was understandable. After all, it was a matter of life and death, and she was the sister he grew up with. It was hard to stand by and do nothing. My mother turned to look at me, her eyes as gentle and firm as ever. It's okay, as long as Judy is by my side. However, an hour later, we received a call from the hospital. My mother and I rushed to the hospital in a hurry. The nurse told us that Leo was in emergency treatment. The patient has suffered a severe blow to the head, causing intracranial hemorrhage and needs immediate surgery. Which one of you is the patient's family member? Come and sign quickly. My mother's body trembled, and she almost fell down. I quickly supported her. After my mother signed, the two of us sat outside the operating room and began a long wait. Before long, the butler, Lee, also arrived. Madam, Mr. Lincoln's plane will probably land in about an hour. We just retrieved the dashcam footage of young Master Leo. Ella suddenly went crazy and grabbed the steering wheel tightly, causing young Master Leo to crash into a truck. And also, Miss Heidi, she probably didn't make it. I suddenly looked up at the butler, Lee. Although I hated Heidi to death, when I heard this news unexpectedly, I still felt a bit uneasy. My mother, however, showed no emotion. Their purpose of putting the drug in the drink was to kill someone. Those who commit many injustices will surely meet with their own ends. Just then, a faint scream of collapse came from the first floor of the hospital. It seemed to be Ella's. My mother suddenly stood up and walked towards the stairwell. I could only follow her. In the emergency room, Ella was holding onto a doctor in a white coat, looking panicked. No, you have to continue the rescue. Save my daughter, Heidi. Heidi isn't dead yet. Did you hear me? Hurry up and save my Heidi. Save her. Ella broke down and cried. If you don't wake my daughter up today, none of you are allowed to leave. Heidi, my poor daughter. My mother had a complicated expression and slowly walked over. The butler, Lee, also walked over. The two of them looked at the girl on the bed, their expressions equally solemn. Heidi was lying there quietly at the moment, looking peaceful. 2 hours ago, she had just walked out of the school gate with me. She was a living person. But now, Ella suddenly got up from the ground and rushed towards my mother. Fortunately, the butler, Lee, was quick-witted and pushed her away. I'm going to kill you. It was you who killed Heidi. It was you who killed her, you bitch. I'm going to kill you. Ella continued to scream, trying to rush over again, but was stopped by the surrounding medical staff. Butler Lee, call the police. The police will find out who killed Heidi. I'm not going to take the blame for this, my mother said calmly. Okay, madam. Ella was taken aback, and a trace of panic appeared on her face. Don't call the police. No one is allowed to call the police. By admitting it like this without being questioned, I'm afraid anyone would be suspicious. It wasn't up to her whether to call the police or not. The onlookers began to whisper and point fingers. Ella let out a desperate and pitiful wail. The crying echoed in the room for a long time. One thought can lead to paradise, and one thought can lead to hell. If her family hadn't had evil intentions and tried to harm others, how could they have suffered such a disaster? As the saying goes, the poor are bound to have something about them. This time, Ella not only lost her beloved daughter but also had to face imprisonment. 2 weeks later, Leo was diagnosed as a vegetative state. Although we had some psychological preparation, when the attending doctor personally announced the result, both my father and mother almost collapsed under the shock. Leo, the sister-loving fanatic, was sent on a road of no return by the sister he loved the most. If he ever wakes up in this life, I wonder if he will regret his choice that day, according to the butler. Lee, on the way to the hospital, Heidi suddenly vomited blood and fell into a coma. Ella desperately tried to wake her daughter up but failed. Knowing that Heidi was probably not going to make it this time, she suddenly went crazy and grabbed the steering wheel. Her thought was simple: if her daughter died, she had to drag my mother's son to pay with his life. So, the car lost control and crashed into a truck. Ella was fine, but Leo and Heidi were severely injured. It was said that Heidi's cause of death was poisoning and internal organ rupture caused by the car accident. It's a pity that if it hadn't been for her mother's instigation and it had just been simple food poisoning, maybe the doctor could have saved her, but there are no ifs in the world. It was an undeniable fact that Ella and David conspired to poison and kill Heidi, although the victim was also an accomplice. The other two still couldn't escape their crimes after the police arrested Ella. Perhaps having received the news in advance, David fled that night. During the subsequent pursuit, in order to avoid the suffering of imprisonment, David chose to jump off the bridge. It was only after several days that his body was fished out. After hearing the news of her husband's death in prison, Ella laughed and cried like a madwoman and tried to commit suicide several times. Fortunately, she was discovered in time and saved. No matter how crazy she was or how many times she tried to commit suicide, the court's trial of her would not be delayed. I'm no longer interested in how long she will be sentenced, whether it's 8 years or 10 years. I'm sure that whether in prison or outside, every day for the rest of her life, Ella will live a life worse than death. The most wrong thing they did in their lives was not to find my biological parents when they discovered that the two children had been switched at birth. Because according to their personalities, they would definitely not send the daughter they had doted on for 9 years to the countryside to suffer. The Lincoln family is a wealthy and powerful family after all, and raising one more child would be a piece of cake for them. David and his wife might also have been able to continue working in the Lincoln family. It's a pity that their naturally selfish and insidious personalities made them choose this path and also led to the worst outcome. After Leo's accident, my father obviously reduced his workload and started staying at home with my mother and me. The relationship between my father and me became much closer. He would teach me to play chess on weekends, take me to the horse farm to ride horses, and even take me to play golf. Sometimes he would also invite Uncle Susan. Uncle Susan would then bring his son, Kevin, and daughter, Susan, Judy. Kevin plays golf very well. You can ask him for some advice. My father, who was chatting with Uncle Susan, turned to me and said, "Here we go again. Adults are really something. If they want to matchmake, they should just do it instead of finding some high-sounding reasons. Aren't they just trampling on my intelligence? Why don't you just date my brother? Then the adults won't have to do all this fake stuff anymore." Susan sat leisurely on the chair, biting a lollipop and giving me advice. I looked at young Master Susan, who was preparing to swing his club not far away. With 4 or 5 chattering strange girls standing beside him, I shook my head. Forget it. A man who is too handsome isn't a reliable husband. I'll just find a man with an average appearance. Susan clicked her tongue twice, obviously not believing my words. After a while, that girl in the yellow dress is asking my brother for his WeChat. I suddenly stood up. What? Your brother doesn't follow the rules of male morality at all, does he? You didn't plan to be my sister-in-law anyway. I thought about it. Although I felt very unwilling, I could only sit down awkwardly. That girl in the red dress is asking my brother for his WeChat. What? I stood up and slapped the table. This is outrageous. Susan raised her eyebrows. Do you want to be my sister-in-law? I could only suppress my indignation and sit down again. After a while, that girl in the blue dress is asking my brother for his WeChat. I couldn't stand it anymore. Where's my knife? Hey, where are you going? Susan's teasing laughter came from behind. I waved my hand at her. Going to snatch a man. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.